You're listening to MYNC on Cr2 Records live and direct. As this is our 150th radio show, we thought we'd do something a little bit special. A few moments ago, I spoke to musician, producer, composer, arranger extraordinaire, Mr. Nile Rodgers, in one of his first interviews since winning the Grammys. Wow.
You know, wow is the perfect word, because before it happened, I was like apologizing to Pharrell and Daft, just saying, like, you know, I don't get along very well with award shows, so I don't think we're going to win anything, because all my life I had so many big records, so many records that were nominated for Grammys, even records that have won, but wouldn't win in categories that the producer actually got the statue. So I went in there expecting the biggest highlight of the night would be jamming with Stevie Wonder and playing with the guys that originally did the record with us. That was the big highlight for me.
I think that was one of the best performances I've ever seen. You know, you, Stevie Wonder and Pharrell. It was just incredible to hear a mega mix like that, and everything just sounds so perfect and natural.
Yeah, the thing that was great for me about that was that it's the spirit of the kind of music that I do. It's the spirit of the music that changed my life. You know, prior to becoming a dance composer, orchestrator, producer, whatever you want to call it, I was really a sort of snobby jazz musician that thought that all dance music and pop music was beneath me. And I had a guitar lesson with my current teacher at the time, and he was this uber jazz player. And one day I said to him, man, I got to do this gig on the weekend, and I'm playing a bunch of this, as we used to say in the old days, it was a derogatory term for R&B pop music. I said, I'm playing this boogaloo gig on the weekend. And he looked at me and said, what did you just say? And he said, what songs are you playing? And I gave him a song list. And he said, do you realize that almost all those songs are million sellers? And the guy just gave me a tongue lashing and told me that any song that sells 1 million to a bunch of strangers is great. And then I started naming songs, you know, that were like the arties and really cheap bubblegum pop songs. And he said, those are great compositions. And I said, you kidding me? You think that Sugar, Sugar, do, 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 do is a great composition? And I started singing, you know, ABBA and stuff like that. He was saying, absolutely, those are great compositions, because they communicate with 1 million strangers. They got 1 million people who didn't know them to spiritually part with their money because they couldn't get those tunes out of their heads. And believe it or not, after he gave me this tongue lash, now I'm making it a lot kinder than the actual conversation. But believe it or not, do you know that 2 months later, I wrote my first hit record for Chic, which was called Everybody Dance? And I actually aggressively sat down and composed a song that had the word dance in it, because prior to that I was like, going, oh God, that's so beneath me.
Let me say, I saw you perform that live at the Warner Brothers after party, which was just absolutely incredible. You know, that was such a unique event to be at, and such an intimate environment. It's a shame that the cops wouldn't let you play one last record.
You know, in a really weird way, I'm happy that you mentioned that. You could really see the kind of person I am and what I'm made of now. That I just love playing music live. I mean, it's just really where I'm coming from, and I couldn't imagine ending a Chic concert without doing, oh no, they cut us off before we did Good Time. and to be my age and have the police shut me down, I felt like a teenager again. and I kept thinking to myself, are they really going to shut us down? Are the police really going to arrest us for playing Good Times? I could see the owner of the club coming to me, and he was begging me not to play, and it just felt so horrible that that they could be that penalized for playing music.
A rumor has it that it's getting late. Time marches on, just can't wait. The clock keeps turning, why hesitate? You silly fool, you can't change your fate. Let's cut the rug, little jive and jitterbug. We want the best, we won't settle for less.
I was watching the Sheriff, and he definitely was tapping his feet on the floor. He was thinking about letting it go one more track. Let's talk about the IMS Anthem. Do what you want to do. You know, it's a great honour for me to have this record released on my independent label, and it's such a great track. You know, and how did this come about? You know, obviously working with Ben Turner and the guys from IMS.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I have to be incredibly sincere. I have been doing a ton of collaborations over the last 3 years. I was stricken with very, very aggressive cancer, and when the doctor first told me about it, he told me to get my affairs in order, and I was like, whoa, get my affairs in order. So, you know, they're basically telling you you're going to die and that you don't know how much time you have. So I thought to myself, you know, after the sort of fog and the cobwebs cleared that inevitably engulfed my brain with like doom and gloom, I just said, okay, let me look through this. Let me clear this stuff away. I'm going to let the doctors do what they do. And then I said, I'm going to add to my therapy by doing more music and more concerts and more records than I've ever done in my life, more compositions. So in the midst of some insane schedule, Ben gives me a ring and says, hey, man, would you like to create the IMS Anthem? And you're going to be doing it with Eats Everything. And I really love Dan. He's awesome. So, we chatted, we hung. And then he said Dan was going to do a remix. So I thought that he meant we were going to co-compose together. So I just started writing some riffs and some ideas, and I figured, well, okay, there's a million things here, so let him run with the ball because I won't be able to get back to him. And then I realized that I was supposed to complete a song, and I was like, oh my God, do these guys know how crazy I am when it comes to writing songs? I write a million ideas, and then I try and throttle back and pull into the lane of musical correctness because I don't know how to write, you know, freak out. I don't know how to write that. When I wrote that, I wrote, and wrote this whole crazy song about protesting, not getting into Studio 54. And then after, you know, having my partner Bernard with me, Bernard Edwards, he then would throttle back and say, well, that's too crazy and that's too aggressive and too nutty and it doesn't prove a point. And like my old guitar teacher said, it's not going to speak to a million strangers. So we figured out how to write a song that would appeal to millions and millions of strangers. So basically what I call myself is a composer, and I'm not really a writer. I'm a rewriter. I rewrite and rewrite and rewrite until I get to the song that I think is the right song. So the way I came up with Do What You Want to Do, it was the most liberating feeling I ever had was going into dance music. And I've tried to explain it through lyrics. I've tried to explain it through my playing. I've tried to explain it through the experiences that I see others having on a dance floor. And it's the only time that people who lead lives that are fairly restricted get to open up. And that's what I was trying to do with the anthem. And that's where I'm coming from. So I just wanted to explain that it was a very personal type of message. And in another way, I get a little bit confused because what I think in terms of anthems, to me, anthem is to proclaim something or to announce something.
Yeah.
And I was motivated by the concept of proclaiming and announcing something, but I realized that in this case, anthem was just being used. The best way I can describe it was a song that would represent the convention that year, 2013. I really, really like the track. I like where it's coming from. I like what the song is saying. But it's, you know, it's typical Nile Rodgers being a little bit nutty and aggressive and stuff like that.
No, let's just move on to one final question, because I appreciate you're really busy and you need to get some sleep and some rest. So after sweeping the Grammys this year with 3 enormous awards, Track of the Year, what's next for Nile Rodgers? I've heard there's a new Chic project coming.
Absolutely. So here's what's going down. Prior to winning the 3 Grammys, which you know, I really sincerely believe that we were not going to win. We were up against some mega records this year. I had already had the Chic deal, if you will, in place for some months now. And part of my therapeutic collaboration process was to get a lot of the people that I was involved with the Chic record as well. So, you know, people like Disclosure, guys like Seth Troxler, even Avicii. So it's running the gamut. Oh, man, the other day I spoke to D'Angelo. Check this out. I said to D'Angelo, would you do a record? Because I just finished a record with Disclosure, a couple of records with them. And, you know, they introduced me to Sam Smith. So I'm working on a song right now with D'Angelo and Sam Smith. And, you know, hopefully I'll get that done in time to make the record. So there's all these incredible collaborations. And a lot of people say, well, that doesn't sound like a traditional Chic record. And I go, well, actually it does. Because a Chic record is really a record of collaboration. If you go back and you look at the credits on our records, in the old days, we purposely didn't tell you which person did which song. And we did that because we were all in it together. We were all studio musicians that wanted to provide opportunities for other people. People, once they join Chic, they're part of our collective. So we don't care if they go around and say, oh, I played on that record. We would never deny it. So in today's world where collaborations are really normal, this is actually probably the most Chic record there ever was.
Oh, well, I think it's going to be one of the most anticipated albums of 2014. I'm so excited to hear this.
Wow, you're saying something that's really amazing to me, because I never like to think that I have any kind of edge or advantage. So all my life I've had to swim upstream to get a hit record. And I love where you're coming from, but I want to just work hard and think that nobody in the world cares about this record, so I could just make it as good as it could possibly be.